Everything you thought you knew about the Invictus Games was a lie. What if the heroes we've been celebrating were only props in a much darker play? Orchestrated by the very people meant to be supporting them? This isn't just another royal scandal. This is something deeper, something hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to expose it. Behind the smiles, the handshakes, and the carefully crafted PR, there's a story no one is talking about. A story of manipulation, hypocrisy, and a couple who seem to be using their supposed charity work to fuel their own fame and fortune. But what happens when the true purpose of an event like Invictus gets lost in the chaos? Who benefits when the focus shifts from the brave athletes to a spectacle that's anything but? Stick with me, because what I'm about to uncover may just shock you. You won't want to miss this. Keep watching, and let's dive into the untold truth behind the glitz, the glam, and the so-called heroes. Let's start by asking the question that no one else seems to be asking. Why is the Invictus Games, an event originally meant to honor wounded veterans, now becoming a stage for the Sussex's personal drama? Sure, we've all heard the stories about Prince Harry's noble mission, about how he started this event to bring attention to those who've sacrificed so much for their countries. But ask yourself, what's really happening on the ground? Are we witnessing true heroism? Or is the spotlight just being hijacked by a couple desperately clinging to relevance? As we peel back the layers, we begin to see a picture that's far from pretty. On the surface, the media floods us with praise for Harry and Meghan, framing them as champions for change, as advocates for those in need. But have you ever stopped to wonder if that's the full story? Could there be something darker lurking beneath the surface? It's almost as if the real purpose of Invictus has taken a back seat to the antics of the royal couple. Let's talk about the media coverage. Everywhere we look, there's Harry and Meghan, front and center, their faces plastered across headlines as if they're the real stars of the show. But when did the athletes, the veterans who this event was created for, become an afterthought? Is the event truly about them anymore? Or has it been reduced to another platform for the Sussexes to build their brand? The answer, unfortunately, is becoming clearer each day. There's a striking pattern here that's hard to ignore. Every time Harry and Meghan make an appearance, we're led to believe that it's for the greater good. Whether it's promoting mental health awareness, supporting veterans, or simply being good royal citizens. But how much of this is genuine? And how much is simply a well-executed publicity stunt? Look at their actions over the years. Do they speak more about the cause or about themselves? From their lavish private jet travels to their multi-million-dollar contracts with Netflix, it's hard not to see the underlying theme. They're building an empire. This brings us to a deeper question. Why is it that every time they show up at an event like Invictus, it's not the veterans we're talking about, but their own personal drama? Take a moment to think about it. Why are we still talking about Harry and Meghan instead of focusing on the athletes they supposedly came to support? Shouldn't the conversation be about the heroes overcoming adversity, not the self-proclaimed royals creating headlines with their latest escapade? And then there's the issue of the Sussex squad, their fan base, who seem to be doing all the dirty work. You've probably seen the headlines: harassment, bullying, trolling. But if we're honest with ourselves, this isn't just a case of passionate supporters. This is an organized, aggressive campaign that fuels the very narrative Harry and Meghan claim to fight against. How is it that the couple who have positioned themselves as anti-bullying activists are allowing this toxic behavior to go unchecked? Is this really who they are? Or is there something far more insidious at play here? Now, here's the kicker. The part where everything ties together in a way that might make you pause and reconsider everything you've been told. While the Sussexes continue to play their roles as victims, using their platform to advocate for change, they've done very little to distance themselves from the chaos they've allowed to unfold around them. In fact, by staying silent, they're complicit in enabling it. Think about it. Harry and Meghan have had ample opportunities to condemn their supporters' behavior, but instead, they've chosen to stay in the background, letting their squad do the work. Could it be that they actually need the drama, the attention, the conflict? It's hard to ignore the possibility that, for Harry and Meghan, chaos equals relevance. But don't take my word for it. Look at the facts. The Invictus Games are no longer just about the athletes. They're about Harry and Meghan. And in the end, isn't that exactly what they wanted all along? They've hijacked the narrative, and now they're selling it. How much longer are we going to let them turn a meaningful event into their own personal circus? Stay tuned, because what's coming next might just change everything you think you know about this royal couple and their so-called mission. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. As we delve deeper into the story, one question remains. Why is no one questioning the narrative being pushed about the Invictus Games? We've been told for years that this event is a tribute to wounded veterans, a symbol of resilience and honor. But if we step back and examine the facts, we must ask, Has it truly remained a platform for these heroes, or has it simply become another vehicle for the Sussexes' self-promotion? First, let's break down what we are being told. Harry and Meghan have consistently presented themselves as advocates for the underdog, champions of mental health, and staunch defenders of vulnerable communities. Their public persona is wrapped up in a cloak of doing good for the world, which they often highlight during high-profile events like Invictus. On the surface, it all seems commendable, but when we peel back the layers, things start to look less like a mission for change and more like a carefully constructed PR campaign. One of the key contradictions here is the silence surrounding the true purpose of Invictus. How is it that the media focuses more on Harry and Meghan's presence, their outfits, their social media posts, rather than the veterans themselves? Can you imagine being an athlete who has poured blood, sweat, and tears into their recovery, only to find that the world is no longer focused on your journey, but rather on the drama surrounding two royals? The fact that the Sussexes have not made a greater effort to ensure the veterans' stories are at the forefront speaks volumes. What are they really doing to elevate the cause they've supposedly championed? Let's add another layer to this. Meghan's behavior, specifically, has often been at odds with the supposed mission of Invictus. Her constant need for attention, her ever-present desire to remain in the media spotlight, doesn't just divert attention from the athletes, it cheapens the event. Invictus was designed as a solemn, respectful gathering. Yet, every time Meghan steps into the limelight, it feels like a circus. Take her grand entrances, her carefully orchestrated photo shoots, and her Instagram posts that always seem more about her brand than the cause at hand. Is this really about supporting wounded veterans? Or about selling another piece of Meghan's image? As we continue to dig deeper, a chilling reality begins to emerge. The Sussex Squad, the fiercely loyal group of supporters who follow Harry and Meghan's every move, has become an extension of their narrative. These individuals, whether they are paid or simply fervent fans, seem to act as protectors and enforcers of the Sussexes' agenda. Think about it. They attack critics, manipulate the narrative, and intimidate anyone who dares question the couple's intentions. Is this really how we want to define public support for such an important cause? And why is it that Harry and Meghan have never publicly distanced themselves from the squad's more aggressive tactics? Are they really unaware of what their supporters are doing? Or do they secretly condone it? Let's not forget the historical context. The Invictus Games were inspired by Harry's own experiences and were meant to offer a platform to veterans to share their stories and triumphs. But with each passing year, it seems the original purpose is slipping further into the background. Remember the outrage from the public when Invictus became a media spectacle for Meghan's fashion choices rather than a celebration of the athletes' hard-earned victories? If Harry and Meghan were truly invested in the mission of Invictus, they would ensure that the veterans take center stage, not themselves. This brings us to a larger issue. What happens when two celebrities with so much media power hijack a cause for their own personal gain? We see it time and again in the history of celebrity activism. When the stars align too closely with their own image, the cause becomes secondary. So, are we really surprised that Invictus is now more about the Sussexes than the soldiers? This isn't just a shift in focus. It's a full-blown rebranding of an event meant to honor others. And the question remains, how much longer can they get away with it? Here's the twist. As the media pushes this narrative, there's one crucial question that no one seems to be asking. What's really at stake here for Harry and Meghan? Could their involvement in Invictus be just a small part of a much larger game they're playing to keep their relevance intact? By turning this event into their personal stage, they've managed to stay in the spotlight. But at what cost? Is the support for these veterans just another cog in their PR machine? Or is there something even more calculated going on behind the scenes? Stick around. The truth is about to get a whole lot messier. As we dive deeper into this unfolding mystery, one critical question emerges. What if the true story behind Invictus isn't what we've been told? At first glance, the narrative seems straightforward. A charitable event for wounded veterans, created by Prince Harry and promoted by the royal couple to highlight the struggles and resilience of these brave men and women. But if we start to examine the details, we begin to uncover inconsistencies, contradictions, and some uncomfortable truths. Let's start with the media coverage. Every time Invictus comes around, the spotlight seems to shine more brightly on Harry and Meghan than on the actual athletes. It's almost as if they've become the main event, overshadowing the very heroes they claim to support. And while we're led to believe that this is all part of their noble mission, the reality doesn't add up. How many times have we seen Meghan's meticulously planned photo ops, her designer outfits, or her social media posts that seem more focused on her personal brand than the athletes themselves? Shouldn't the media be focusing on the veterans, on their triumphs, their struggles, and their personal victories, rather than the celebrity couple's latest fashion statement? Here's where the plot thickens. If we look closer at Meghan's behavior during these events, a disturbing pattern emerges. From her grand entrances to her calculated use of Invictus to further her own image, Meghan doesn't seem to be playing by the same rules as the rest of us. Why is it that every time she attends an event like Invictus, the attention inevitably shifts from the cause to her? The event becomes less about the athletes and more about the Sussexes, their struggles, and their ongoing battle for relevance in the media. Is this really about the veterans? Or is this simply another stage for Meghan and Harry to perform their latest act? But it doesn't stop there. As we dig deeper into the behavior of the Sussex squad, those fiercely loyal supporters who follow Harry and Meghan's every move, things start to take an even darker turn. These aren't just casual fans, they're organized, aggressive, and vocal, ready to attack anyone who dares to criticize their idols. Why hasn't Harry or Meghan distanced themselves from this group? Why are they allowing their supporters to harass journalists, critics, and anyone who dares to question their motives? Does this mean that they're truly unaware of the actions of their so-called loyal followers? Or are they secretly encouraging this kind of behavior? It's a question that demands an answer. Looking back at the history of celebrity activism, this kind of manipulation is nothing new. We've seen countless celebrities hijack important causes for their own personal gain. But what makes this situation even more troubling is that Harry and Meghan have used the Invictus Games, an event meant to honor the sacrifices of military veterans, as their personal platform to advance their own agendas. This is a delicate issue, and it's not just about their royal titles or their media presence, it's about the integrity of an event that was meant to bring attention to real heroes, not to serve as a backdrop for a celebrity couple's public relations campaign. And here's the twist. Despite all of the media coverage, the social media campaigns, and the public appearances, one thing remains glaringly absent: actual support for the athletes. Why is it that Invictus, a platform designed for veterans, has become a spectacle for Harry and Meghan, overshadowing the very people it was meant to help? Could this be an intentional move to keep the focus on them, ensuring that no matter where they go or what they do, the world's eyes remain trained on them, and not on the veterans they claim to be supporting? What if, just for a moment, we consider the possibility that Harry and Meghan aren't as altruistic as they would have us believe? Could it be that their true motivation for attending these events, their public speeches, and their social media posts is not about supporting the veterans, but rather about keeping their names in the headlines? It's hard to ignore the mounting evidence that this isn't just about charity, it's about branding, fame, and relevance. And if that's the case, it raises even more questions. How far are they willing to go to ensure that they remain in the public's eye? What price are they willing to pay for that kind of attention? As we get closer to uncovering the full truth, the pieces are starting to fit together in a way that's hard to ignore. And the final reveal might just change the way you view Harry and Meghan's role in the Invictus Games forever. But for now, I'll leave you with one question to consider. How much of what we've been told is really the truth? And how much of it has been carefully orchestrated for their personal gain? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. As we piece together the fragments of this complex narrative, another chilling question arises. Could there be something or someone pulling the strings behind the scenes? What if the chaos, the drama, and the constant media spotlight are all part of a much bigger plan? One that goes beyond just Harry and Meghan's personal interests? Is it possible that there's a larger force at work, manipulating public perception and turning the Invictus Games into nothing more than a glorified spectacle? To start, let's consider the true nature of the Invictus Games. On paper, this was an event designed to showcase the resilience of wounded veterans, an opportunity for those who have sacrificed so much to show the world that they are not defined by their injuries. Yet, year after year, as the games have evolved, they seem to have become less about these veterans and more about the royal couple. While Harry and Meghan may have genuine intentions, it's hard to ignore how their presence has overshadowed the very purpose of the event. But why? Is this simply a matter of poor execution, or is there something more calculated at play? As we dive deeper, another uncomfortable truth starts to emerge. The Sussex Squad, a dedicated group of supporters that follows Harry and Meghan's every move, isn't just a fan base, they're an army. These people don't just cheer for the couple, they actively go after anyone who dares to speak out against them, resorting to tactics of harassment and intimidation. But who is really in control here? Are Harry and Meghan, knowingly or unknowingly, allowing this behavior to unfold? Or is it possible that they're secretly encouraging it as a means to silence their critics and keep their public image pristine? It's crucial to take a step back and evaluate the historical context here. The world has witnessed similar patterns with other celebrity activists who've turned their causes into personal brands. We've seen famous figures hijack humanitarian causes, not out of a desire to help, but to maintain relevance. So, is Harry and Meghan's involvement in the Invictus Games merely another chapter in this well-worn playbook? Are they truly committed to helping veterans, or are they using this platform to further their own fame? The most disturbing part of this story is the idea that the Sussexes might not be working alone. Could there be a deeper conspiracy at play, orchestrated by unseen hands? Think about it. With their connections, media influence, and loyal supporters, could Harry and Meghan be at the center of a much bigger plan to shift public attention away from important issues and onto themselves? If the attention stays focused on them, it diverts the public's gaze from uncomfortable truths or stories that could damage their brand. What if their every move, whether it's a public appearance or a social media post, is calculated to maintain that spotlight, no matter the cost? The most shocking detail of all, though, is that Harry and Meghan's influence extends far beyond just their own actions. In fact, it seems like they've created a machine, one that runs on controversy, media attention, and the constant creation of drama. It's as if they thrive in a world of conflict, where their name is always trending, and they are never too far from the headlines. And let's be honest, this doesn't just help them, it helps those pulling the strings in the background. The more chaos they create, the more they remain relevant, and the more power they amass. So, what's the endgame here? It's hard to say, but one thing is clear. If we keep letting Harry and Meghan dictate the narrative, we risk losing sight of the real heroes, the veterans, the people who the Invictus Games were created for in the first place. By focusing so much on the drama and spectacle surrounding this royal couple, we've allowed them to hijack the entire event, turning it into a circus. And if the world doesn't wake up to this soon, it might be too late. Here's the final question. Are we really okay with this? Or is it time to stop giving them a free pass and start holding them accountable for turning what should be a powerful, meaningful event into a public relations tool for their own personal gain? Stay tuned, because the next part of this story might just change everything. As we've uncovered together, the story behind the Invictus Games and Harry and Meghan's involvement is far from simple. What began as a noble cause to support veterans has slowly morphed into something far more complex. We've seen how the Sussexes' presence at the Games has taken the spotlight away from the athletes it was meant to honor, turning the focus to their personal drama and branding efforts. We've also explored how their supporters, the Sussex squad, have taken things even further, resorting to harassment and intimidation of critics. But the question remains, are Harry and Meghan truly unaware of what's happening? Or is this chaos part of a much bigger strategy to stay in the public eye? Now, let me leave you with something to consider. How much of this is a calculated game for relevance? And how much is about genuine support for the cause? Can we ever really separate the two? Or is this just a perfect storm of celebrity culture, media manipulation, and personal ambition? The truth, as we've seen, is not clear-cut. The story is far from over, and as we continue to watch these events unfold, there are bound to be more twists and turns. So, what do you think? Is this all part of a grand plan? Or are we simply witnessing a series of missteps? I encourage you to share your thoughts and keep the conversation going. This is just the beginning. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated with the latest developments. You won't want to miss what's coming next.